Our second speaker will be Vikash Khanna, who will speak on the Crest-Jewel of Wisdom.
Namaste and welcome all to an introductory talk on the Crest-Jewel of Wisdom, also known as Vivekachudamani in Sanskrit. This talk will give you a glimpse into what it covers, and if you were to do a deep dive study of the same, then what to expect. However, before we read or try to understand a particular book, we need to also have some understanding about the author. Vivekachudamani has been written by Adi Shankaracharya. Now, when we say Adi, it means in Sanskrit the first one, because there has been a lot of successors after that. Now, the essence of all the teachings which Adi Shankaracharya has mentioned can be captured in one of his shlokas as follows. I am light within, light without, light deep within the depths of myself, light beyond the eternal, beyond. I am the light of lights, the self effulgent light, self's own light, auspiciousness am I. I am that I am. I am that. So, this is what his final conclusion was, and this is what our real nature is. So, who was Adi Shankaracharya? Now, when we say Shankara is his actual name, and Acharya means a teacher. So, the first Shankara. But who was he? And we may also ask this question: who is Adi Shankaracharya? So, in this short talk, it is not possible to get in the depths of the life of Shankaracharya. HPB mentions that he was a sixth rounder allegorically. Theosophy teaches that he was born 2500 years ago, specifically in 510 BC, only 51 years and 2 months after the death of Buddha, that is, Lord Buddha. Though established in sublime state of self-realization, where he could have remained in solitary bliss, Adi Shankaracharya chose instead to embrace humanity with boundless compassion, recognizing the diverse spiritual capacities of seekers. He communicated wisdom at multiple levels, meeting souls precisely where they stood on their spiritual journey. His extraordinary talents included intellectual brilliance that could distill the most profound metaphysical truths into accessible understanding, spiritual realization that transcended mere scholarship to embody the truth he taught, poetic genius that flowed effortlessly from rigorous philosophical treatises to soul stirring devotional hymns, organizational vision that established enduring institutions to preserve and transmit knowledge and wisdom over generations, compassionate leadership that reformed religious practices while honoring the authentic tradition. Now, within the remarkable brief span of his physical life, completing his earthly mission by the age of 32, Adi Shankaracharya accomplished what would seem impossible for many lifetimes. His commentaries on principal Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, collectively known as the Prasthanatraya, remain definitively the definitive expositions that have guided generations of seekers to the highest truth. Now, HPB mentions that Buddha's grand successor is Shankaracharya and also the greatest esoteric masters of India. Further, HPB mentions close of Shankaracharya's life brings us face to face with a fresh mystery. Shankaracharya retires to a cave in Himalayas, permitting none of his disciples to follow him, and disappears therein forever from the sight of the profane. Is he dead? Tradition and popular belief answer in negative, and some of the local gurus, if they do not emphatically corroborate, do not deny the rumor. The truth, with its mysterious details as given in secret doctrine, is known but to them. It can be given out fully only to the direct followers of the great Dravidian Guru, and it is for them alone to reveal of it as much as they think fit. Still, it is maintained that this adept of adepts lives to this day in his spiritual entity as a mysterious, unseen, yet overpowering presence among the brotherhoods of Shambhala, beyond, far beyond the snowy capped Himalayas. And further, we see in this context, in order to better understand, we can go through these quotes. Yet you must not think that the gods are without employment or that their descent to this earth is perpetual, for they descend according to orderly periods of time, for the purpose of imparting a beneficent impulse in the republics of mankind. But this happens when they harmonize a kingdom and send to this earth for what purpose souls who are allied to themselves. For this providence is divine and most ample. This frequently through one man pays attention to and affects countless multitudes of men. For there is indeed in the terrestrial abode the sacred tribe of heroes who pay attention to mankind and who are able to give them assistance even in the smallest concerns. This heroic tribe is, as it were, a colony from the gods established here in order there that this terrain abode may not be left destitute of a better nature. And then we see from Shankaracharya's Crest-Jewel of Wisdom itself. Now as a fool, now a wise man, now as a great and a wealthy king, now as a wanderer, now as a sage, now dwelling like a serpent solitary, now full of honor, now rejected and unknown. Thus the sage walks, though not like others, yet seeming as the rest, bodiless, though possessing a body. This knower of the eternal, whose self is the real being, they behold as though bound to a body, while he in truth freed from ever from the body, and they are deluded by the mere seeming of the body. HPV says in Secret Doctrine, to put it still more clearly, such an invisible entity may be bodily present on earth without, however, abandoning its status and functions in the super sensuous regions. Many are those among the spiritual entities who have incarnated bodily in man since his first appearance, and who, for all that, still exist as independently as they did before in the infinitudes of space. And on the light on the path, we see in this context, and the neophyte may meet an adept in flesh, may live in the same house with him, and yet be unable to recognize and unable to make his own voice heard by him. For no nearness in space, no closeness of relations, no daily intimacy can do away with the inexorable laws which give the adept his seclusion. No voice penetrates to his inner hearing till it has become a divine voice, a voice which gives no utterance to the cries of the self. And here the self is in smaller s. So this gives an idea what exactly or who exactly was Adi Shankaracharya or what he is. Now, further, an important thing which we see in the secret doctrine is mentioned by HPB that he was a greatest initiate living in the historical ages, and he wrote many a bhashyas. Bhashyas are the commentaries on the Upanishads. But his original treatises, as there are reasons to suppose, have not yet fallen into the hands of the Philistines, for they are too jealously preserved in his mathas, that is, the monasteries. And there are still weightier reasons to believe that the priceless bhashyas, that is, the commentaries on the esoteric doctrine of the Brahmins by their greatest expounder, will remain for ages yet a dead letter to most of the Hindus except the Samarthava Brahmins. This sect, founded by Shankaracharya, which is still very powerful in southern India, is now almost the only one to produce students who have preserved sufficient knowledge to comprehend the dead letter of the Bhashyas. The reason of this is that they alone, I am informed, have occasionally real initiates at their head in their matams, for instance, in the Sringagiri, which is as of today called and known as Sringeri, in the western ghats of Mysore. Now, this is the place which HPB referred to. As of today, this is the location which still exists after so many hundreds and hundreds of years. So, this is the actual Pitham, which is the Matham in Sringeri. And then you have this particular temple which exists there. This is the Vidya Shankara temple at Sringeri, built in 1338 AD, approximately 700 years old as of today, and it's still functioning in its complete essence. And um, there are still people from all over the world visiting this particular location. So basically, he had four matams in four different directions, the four Maharajas associated with the four Vedas and the four divinities. Now, if you were to take all the teachings of Adi Shankaracharya and try to understand the core essence of it, especially even the Vivekachudamani, we will get these seven aspects out of it. The first one, Brahman, same as Parabrahman, the eternal, impersonal, conscious absolute, is the only reality. The universe, with all its names, forms, appears within this reality through the power of Maya, periodically. The individual soul, Jiva, is fundamentally non different from Brahman, appearing separate only due to limited adjuncts, that is, the upadhis, which are made up of the skandhas or the aggregates. Liberation, moksha, is the direct recognition of this eternal oneness as proclaimed in the Mahakavyas or the Mahavakyas of the Upanishads. That is the great sayings, Mahavakyas of the Upanishads. Karma, action, and bhakti, devotion, when performed with proper understanding, purify the mind and prepare it for this supreme knowledge. And without purification of the mind, one cannot understand or even appreciate this supreme knowledge. Many forms are there, but one reality. The one is projected into the many. All divine forms are manifestations of the same supreme. There is no difference in the essence. So, the fundamental reality of everything, whatever your mind can think of or experience, is that one absolute reality, the substratum. Rest all is temporary. And we can connect to the previous talk from the perspective of shunyata, where there is no intrinsic reality of anything. Everything is interconnected, interdependent, and the substratum of everything is that one reality which is permanent, while everything, the many, are temporary. Hence, the concept of shunyata also comes in. While maintaining that Brahman alone is the absolute truth, the Paramarthika Satya, Sri Shankaracharya acknowledged the practical reality, Vyavharika, of the world for the purpose of spiritual practice and daily conscious living. This balanced approach allowed him to integrate diverse spiritual practices within a coherent framework, leading ultimately to non dual realization. Now, before we proceed further, we need to understand the context in which the book Vivekachudamani or Crest-Jewel of Wisdom was provided. Now, this diagram shows the Vedic corpus or the entire system of the Hindu scriptures. So, if you see on the top, you have the four Vedas: Rig Veda, Sam, Yajur, and Atharva. These four have, each one has two parts to it or sections: the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. Now, Karma Kanda deals with the samhitas, the mantras and the brahmanas, the rituals, and Jnana Kanda deals with the aranyakas, again a set of rituals, but it also mainly deals with the Upanishads. Now, there are 10 principal Upanishads: Isha, Kenna, Katha, Prashna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitareya, Chandogya, and Brihadaranyaka. All this is actually known as Shrutis, that which was heard, that was provided by the rishis. And they went into a deep state of meditation and they were able to tap into the universal mind and somehow capture it. And this is what was passed on. So this is what was heard, this is what was known by deep meditation. And then you have the other part of it, the aphorism, also known as the sutras. So even you are mostly familiar with the Patanjali Sutra. So that is also another aphorism. So you have the Dharma Sutras, Griha Sutras, and other sutras, and mainly the Brahma Sutras. And then you have the Smritis, Manusmritis, and Parashara Smriti, and etc. other Smritis, which are the poems. These are which are orally transmitted. So they are like the Smritis. And then other part is the Puranas. So you have the 18 Puranas and Itihasas, the history. Very well known is the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And a part of Mahabharata is the Bhagavad Gita, which most of us are quite familiar. And then comes the Bhashyams. So Adi Shankaracharya provided commentary on all of these, in-depth analysis and commentaries. That Vedanta is actually truly the science of life, one of the greatest texts which Adi Shankaracharya ji has written as an introduction to Vedanta. And as we have seen, it is a part of the Prakarna Granthas. And it is said that a very careful study of the verses in Vivekachudamani, with the help of freedom to inquire, will give any student, aspirant, a correct understanding of the entire theory of the Vedanta. And he can, even without a very serious study of the scriptures, can practically apply the teachings in his life and reap tremendous benefits. Apply the teachings practically and living the life accordingly will help the seeker who, without understanding the fundamentals, are aimlessly struggling along the spiritual path. So, naturally, these kind of seekers, they suffer agonies of painful disappointment, although they have behind them years and years of painstaking effort and struggle. So, an exhaustive and careful study of this text helps to avoid all the pitfalls on the path of liberation from the spiritual aspirant. Now, if we were to study this text, we will need to bring forth from every verse not only its obvious meaning, but also its hidden import, which gives us wealth of information and helpful suggestion to ensure a steady progress on our journey. Now, this needs to be done in the light of Theosophy. It is said that bondage is caused by ignorance and a lack of inquiry, and that it ceases only by making an inquiry, and then followed by contemplation on the answers to the inquiry. So, if we turn to differentiate self from non self, if we shift our attention from the world of names and forms to the substratum, the basis and reality behind all temporary things, then we can arrive at the final goal quickly. Vivekachudamani, being a very famous text, is actually, it has great poetic beauty if it is read in Sanskrit. It is said that this text is sufficiently enough to lead any person to the heights of spiritual goal and life, and finally lead us to the final liberation. Now, the title of the book itself is very beautiful simile, whereas if we take the Vedas as the human body, the head is the Upanishads. All the great texts of scriptural commentaries and the bhashyas may be thought of as the crown. And in this crown, there is this crest jewel known as the Vivekachudamani. So, according to Vivekachudamani, liberation or moksha can be secured only through jnana, which is wisdom, which starts from the first step of discrimination between eternal and non eternal, between self and non self. Now, the same idea we have seen in Bhagavad Gita also, in chapter 2, wherein you have the Sankhya Yoga and application of the speculative doctrine. And we have also understood and seen that discrimination between self and non self leads to selfless service, detachment from outcomes and actions, performance of duty. Now, this performance of duty is also connected with the Karma Yoga, which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, performing the duty without expectation of any um, results or expectation about or regarding the results, and even the performance of the duty is offered to the higher self, leading to chitta shuddhi, that is purification of mind. That's when the next step is that it leads to viveka, discrimination and knowledge, atma vichara, self inquiry, and renunciation, leading to vairagya. The same idea is also here in practical usage, and we have also seen that there are four stages of vairagya: the relative, the apara, and the para. And Vivekachudamani leads us through all these till we reach, in practical terms, the para vairagya, the highest possible state. And then it also talks about paravidya and aparavidya. So we see that there are two kinds of knowledge, the lower apara and the higher para. So wherein apara deals with exoteric works, while para deals with esoteric works. And the esoteric knowledge, the paravidya, cuts the bonds of ignorance and leads to realization. It frees one from the cycle of birth. And the Upanishads reiterate that the self is not known through the study of scriptures, nor through the subtlety of intellect, nor through much learning. The self is revealed to one who longs to know the self. Hence, we have this age old aphorism which says, man, know thyself, look within. So the focus is to look within. And the whole of Vivekachudamani is provided as a dialogue from the perspective of a guru and a student, a shishya, a disciple. If we read between the lines, it will provide the inner esoteric meaning, the paravidya. And that is what Shankaracharya has directed us to find out and put an effort to understand that paravidya. So the student approaches the guru and asks seven important questions. What is bondage? How did it arise? How does it continue? How is one released from it? What is this anatman, that is non self? Which is the paramatman, that is the ultimate self? How to distinguish between anatman and atman, that is the self and the non self? And then the guru provides guidance and answers these questions step by step in the Vivekachudamani, and then the guru takes up each questions one by one. and provides an in depth direction, a practical instruction which can be applied in life. So, what is the end goal? What do we achieve as per getting the answers to these questions? It helps to realize that we are not this body. We are none of these bodies, none of these seven bodies. Hence, we in reality never suffer, nor we were never born, nor shall we ever die. We are not subject to any misery, unhappiness, pain, or pleasure. There is, in fact, nothing required to bring us happiness since we already are complete and pure, and the source of all, we are ever fulfilled. To discover our true nature, our true self, our true divinity, practically while we are in this body, to realize nature of our true self, that is pure consciousness, while we are in this body, to be in that state of constant bliss and achieve the state of jivan mukta, that is state of liberation or moksha while you are in this body. However, in order to achieve these, Vivekachudamani, the guru, while talking to the disciple, states that you can achieve all this, but you need to have certain qualifications. You need to have certain entry criteria. And once you have that entry criteria, and if you follow these instructions to the dot, then yes, success is guaranteed. Now, what are these qualifications for achieving this end goal, which is given in the 17th shloka of the Vivek Chudamani? He alone is considered qualified to inquire after the supreme reality, who has discrimination, detachment, qualities of calmness, and so on, and a burning desire for liberation. So, that burning desire is also very important. And if we were to elaborate this shloka, then we see that there are actually four important qualities, which are the qualifiers which are required. The entry qualification, viveka, which is commonly translated as detachment, and we have already seen the aspect of viveka. We need to, in fact, viveka is not detachment. Viveka is the discrimination, but that leads to detachment. So viveka is the capacity to discriminate between the real and the unreal. It is the buddhic capability or the manasik buddhi capability to understand the real and the unreal, the self and the non-self, the atman and the anatman, the temporary from the permanent. But again, it's interrelated with vairagya. Now, vairagya could be commonly translated as the as detachment. Now, we need to focus on achieving the highest form of detachment as a qualification, as an entry criteria, which is the paravairagya. And then comes sama. Sama means calmness, equal mindedness, which even Bhagavad Gita always points out to, and other devotional books also point out to. But last but not least is the mumukshutva, which is a burning desire for liberation. Now, this is very important. It's like continuous 24 by 7, 365 days. Every moment of your life, your highest priority should be liberation and nothing else. Rest all you are performing your duty. Apart from duty, you're not doing anything. So there are no desires, there are no ambitions, but you are just performing your duty. And your goal is liberation, to become better able to help and teach others. And that's the only purpose of life, nothing else. So if we were to keep all this in at the back of our mind and try to do a 10,000 feet overview of Vivekachudamani, we will see that it provides a roadmap. The format is a dialogue between the student and the disciple, and you have this roadmap which is provided. So, part one focuses on the precious nature of human birth, that you have got this human body. It's an opportunity that while in the body, you can achieve liberation. And then if you waste this opportunity, it's like committing suicide. Part 2 is Shravana, that is listening to what the Guru says. Part 3 is Manana, reasoning, removal of doubts based on what the Guru has mentioned. Part 4 is Nididhyasana, which is meditating on those seed thoughts, ideas, guidance which your Guru has provided. Then part 5 is the higher level of meditations. That using those seed thoughts, then you get into higher level of meditations. Then part 6 is again higher level of meditations, the final state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then part 7 leads to liberation, the final realization, first hand realization, not theoretical, first hand in real life from bondage of this phenomenal world. But you are still in the body, so you become a Jivan Mukta. Part 8 is then you provide, share feedback with your Guru. You exchange experience of realization with your Guru. Part 9 of the book deals with the concluding conversation about the next level or what needs to be done once you have reached the state of liberation and how the life is from there onwards. Now, if you see these three, one important thing is that Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana especially cannot be achieved to the required potential unless we achieve purity. That is Chitta Shuddhi, which we have already seen. It's part of initial qualification also. And in Bhagavad Gita also we have seen the same idea. So mind purification is mandatory for Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasa. Even if the Guru has provided these guidance, you will not able to understand unless mind purification is there. How do we achieve that? By performance of duty, karma yoga, abhyasa, continuous practice, vairagya, which we have seen, para vairagya, focus on higher thoughts always, and bhakti yoga, devotion. And then through the path, all working together, karma, bhakti, raja, jnana yoga, vairagya, you will achieve a state of sthita prajna, which is gunatita, which is you raise yourself above the gunas. Finally, we see what Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita: there is no purifier in this world to be compared to spiritual knowledge, and he who is perfect in devotion findeth spiritual knowledge springing up spontaneously in himself in the progress of time. The man who restraineth the senses and organs and hath faith obtaineth spiritual knowledge, and having obtained it, he soon reacheth supreme tranquility. But the ignorant, those full of doubt and without faith, are lost. The man of doubtful mind hath no happiness either in this world or in the next or in any other. No actions bind that man who through spiritual discrimination hath renounced action and cut asunder all doubt by knowledge. Now, if this book were to studied and if we were to do a deeper dive into it, the primary book for reference is this particular one, which is the bhashya or the commentary provided by Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati III, who lived from 1912 to 1954. After his death, the first edition was published in 1957, second in 22, and third in 2024, recently. So, who was Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati? So, as of today, still we have these mathas or the monasteries existing, and over hundreds of years, there is this Guru Parampara. After Adi Shankaracharya, we had the next Guru and successor, and so on and so forth. So, just to give the right context, on the top right, we have Sri Chandrasekhar Bharati III, who actually has provided the Sanskrit bhashya of the original texts of Adi Shankaracharya, and which is one of the most important texts in order to understand Vivekachudamani. And in the bottom row, we have Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahaswami, who is the current Shankaracharya, and his student on the right, who is the successor designate. If somebody is interested, they can go to the URL on the bottom right, and you will get the details of all the successors after Adi Shankaracharya, who started, if you see, top right, number one, Sri Shankara Bhagavad Pada. And even his Acharya or Guru is mentioned, Sri Gaudapada Acharya and Govinda Bhagavata Pada. So finally, this question was asked to the current Shankacharya, that if we were to get liberation, what needs to be done? And he said, if you really desire liberation, you should give up attachment to sense objects as one would shun poison. You should carefully cultivate virtues such as contentment, compassion, forgiveness, straightforwardness, calmness, self control, in the same way as you would collect nectar. Only then you can traverse this path of ultimate liberation. May all read Shankara's Vivekachudamani, which propounds these great ideals and ennoble their lives. Finally, the closing thought: supreme worship. The heart is the altar, Atman is the deity, and the divine virtue is compassion. Discrimination, disappassion, charity, non-violence, purity are the garland of flowers of the Lord. Egoism is the camphor, which is ignited with the fire of wisdom. The shedding of egoism is the waving of light. This is supreme worship. This worship is continuous through all words and deeds. Thus, one's entire life is a long prayer. The ideals embodied in life are stotras. The solidarity of the world is the offering, and the vision of the self everywhere is the prostration. I am Atman is the highest devotion. Such is the supreme worship of the Vedantins. Thank you.